everybody, Max here from MaksPlayground, and welcome to a Sims 2 Create a Sim video. This is me creating two fairies and a elf. Now, I really wanted to do this video because I love fairies, I love elves, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to do because it's getting a little bit closer to Halloween, and you know, the supernaturalism is kind of, you know, in full force. So yeah, I created these guys with the intention to do a fairy mod overview, which will be out this week. I think it's going to be the next video. I already have it recorded, so I'm really excited to show you guys that. So these guys will be in my next mod review. They become, well, one of them becomes a real fairy. Now, I'm going to get into the story that I sort of have for these Sims. Now, the Sim that I'm creating right now, she is, I guess you could say, fairy, kind of like royalty. She comes from where a lot of fairies live in her homeland, and something really bad happened there. Something really terrible had happened there, and she had to flee. Everybody had to flee. Now, a lot of her family died because the attack that happened on their homeland happened to her family, and she was able to escape. Now, she escaped with her sister's daughter, so her niece, and her sister did unfortunately pass away, and because of that, before her sister died, and as she was dying, essentially, she asked her to watch over her daughter and guide her to be a good fairy. Now, she felt very heavy about this, and she was very sad. So she promised her sister that she would do the best that she could. She was a little bit young. Well, she is a little bit young. She's a young fairy. Now, fairies sort of live forever. Well, I wouldn't say forever, but they do have really long lives. So she is rather young, and she is very afraid to raise her niece in, she wants to raise her in the proper way of the Fae, and, she had to flee. Now, she didn't know even if she was going to make it out alive. Now, when she was flying away with her niece, she had noticed that there was not just bad things happening in her area of, the forest and area that she lived in, but it was also happening in where the elves live. Now, in my universe, in my story, elves and fairies don't really get along. They're very apprehensive of each other because of history, and as she is kind of Fae royalty, she is very well informed about the mishaps and the reasons why Fae and elves, like fairies and elves, don't really get along. They have similar powers. However, the elves are a little bit more, I guess you could say, a little bit more softer, whereas fairies are a little bit more brutish and a little bit more tricksters. They're a little bit more nefarious, I guess you could say, and where elves are very delicate and soft and lighthearted, and they're they're known as caretakers. But there are some darker elves among the elves in where this land was from. But I just kind of imagined that, the one that is in this video that I make, she's the last Sim that I make. What happened was she ended up finding this elf, and she thought she almost died because of the stuff that the people that had come and was killing everybody. And so she essentially saved her, and the elf is kind of, you could say, forever indebted to this fairy. And because of that, she's not really strict about it. She's not really keeping her hostage, essentially. She just kind of her elf essentially is kind of like, I don't want to say a servant or a maid. She just kind of helps her a lot. She helps her take care of her niece, and she does a lot of the gathering and things like that. She does a lot of fishing. She helps her live, right? Essentially, they're kind of a team. They are really close though, and they are friends. They're like essentially comrades, and they try to stick together. And they've come to kind of an understanding, although there is still a little bit of animosity there. Essentially, they're in this new place, and they want to start afresh. They want to start anew. They want to start fresh. So that is the story essentially of these Sims. Now, I imagine her to be sort of, I guess you could say, like, she's not exactly like the nicest person, but she's not exactly mean either. She's very like still very broken up about what happened to her family, and she feels like that's gonna stick with her forever. She feels lost, and she's in this new place that she knows, that she sensed, that had magical properties and magical people there where she lives, so where they came to. So she's hoping that she'll be able to maybe meet another fairy that fled, whether it could be a dark fairy or a light fairy. She's just hoping to really meet one of her own, as well as she's hoping that, because they are in a new place, that her essentially her elf friend won't abandon her or leave her, because she really needs her to help her raise her niece, her child, essentially. And yeah, I don't know, the little fairy that I'm making right now, she's absolutely adorable. I had so much fun making these creatures. Like, it was a lot of fun. The little girl, how I'm not too sure yet. I haven't really thought of like a story for her, but I can see maybe her making friends with, other supernatural creatures in this world, in this neighborhood, that maybe could sway her into a darker path. Maybe she'll make friends with a dark vampire. Maybe she'll fall in love with a vampire. Something like that. Fae have their own magical powers, but they are a little bit afraid of like vampires. They're kind of afraid of vampires, and they're really apprehensive about them. I'm kind of stealing a little bit of lore from True Blood. Stealing a little bit of lore from True Blood. Maybe fairies are a little bit afraid of vampires because of their threat. Like, vampires are a really big threat to them. If you have watched True Blood, I'm sure you'll understand what I'm like kind of referring to. If you haven't, essentially, fairy blood is really, really succulent to vampires, and essentially maybe that's why fairies or fae are afraid of vampires, and they have an aversion to them. So there's that. Now I'm creating the elf. And the elf I had so much fun making her. She's like very in tune with nature. She's more of like a wood elf, essentially. She does have green skin. She looks a little bit like a plant sim, but has alien eyes. I really just wanted to make her look very, very foresty and like in tune with nature. She's the one who does a lot of the fishing, the gathering. She is a perfect gardener as well. So yeah, I really wanted them to be one and in tune with nature. They essentially live in the forest. I haven't made a lot for them yet, but I really do want to. It may or may not be a speed build. If that's something you guys want to see, please do let me know. But yeah, now for her story, she wasn't from royalty. She was like a school teacher, or a teacher, I guess you could say, not really a school teacher, a teacher for elven children, and she was devastated. And when the bad energy or people, or the antagonist of the story essentially came and started wiping everything out, and a lot of her people out, she didn't have a chance to save the children, and she lives with that guilt, she lives with that pain and that hurt in her heart. And I don't know, when I was creating these Sims, I really kind of fleshed out not specific details, but kind of a good storyline for them. And a lot of people have asked me to do a let's play with this neighborhood, or a let's play with some of the things I've talked about in this neighborhood. Now, I don't think I'm going to, because let's plays are kind of difficult for me to do right now. I may maybe consider it as I flesh out this neighborhood some more. It's basically just lots with different Sims and different builds in it. I haven't really done too much with it as of right now, but I do eventually want to make a supernatural hood. But yeah, so again, I went searching far and wide for naturey fairy type of clothing. I found some really good stuff. So yeah, I hope that you guys really did enjoy this video. Again, I have mentioned that I will be posting a fairy mod review, and I'm really excited to do that for you guys. I had a lot of fun. Well, not really had a lot of fun. It was really easy to do, and it's just something really neat that I would love to share with you guys for those who love playing supernatural Sims in their game. If you are one of those people and you're watching this, let me know whether you play The Sims 2, The Sims 3, or The Sims 4. Let me know if you guys like playing supernatural creatures in your game. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Don't hesitate to subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day, guys. I will be talking to you in my next video. Bye!